Y vamos con la parte final de la entrevista, donde se habla sobre la etapa Let It Be, un poco, y cómo Paul, a diferencia de la opinión popular que tiene la idea que en estos días todo era pelea y una etapa caótica, tiene otra perspectiva, hablando también del nuevo Get Back de Peter Jackson, que se viene en un año. Además hablan también sobre el aspecto personal de ellos, con algunas sorpresas, entre otras cosas. Sigamos escuchando.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but I've had little glimpses of some of the studio banter from the Let It Be period, and it just made me think like, wow, growing up there was always this myth that, things were a bit grumpy or whatever, and there was this kind of like, there was this mythos around the film and everything. But actually what surprised me, was that you guys then and throughout your career just always seemed to actually be having so much fun. Like, it was very lighthearted and you guys are joking around and enjoying yourselves, I think. Is that true? Like, do you think it was a bit of a myth, and that looking back, do you notice how much more fun it seemed or something? Because I remember seeing in an interview with you saying,
I think it was the fact that the Beatles were breaking up, which was a very difficult time for us. It was like a divorce, so it's very difficult to collect your thoughts and to just be jolly. And by the time Let It Be came about, that became the story of the film. And then that, coupled with the fact that we'd broken up, left it left a sort of cloud in the room, I'd always bought into that. So for years, when people say, oh, what about Let It Be? I go, yeah, I didn't really like it because it was such a gloomy period. But then talking to Peter Jackson, when he was looking at the 58 hours of outtakes, I said, well, what's it like, kind of thing, expecting to say, well, it's very gloomy, you're all arguing all the time. He says, no, he said exactly what you just said. It's amazing, he said, you like jolly and stuff. And he showed me some bits, and it's just great. It really made me happy because, for years there, I thought, oh God, the Beatles broke up, and it was acrimonious, and we were arguing, and which happens in a divorce,
Saying that you saw a picture of you guys at I think it's from the Let It Be session, and you just are obviously so close, like you're writing some song together, and that reminded you.
That was a picture Linda had taken. It really gave me hope, that picture. Before the Peter Jackson thing, that was like one little picture I held on to. In fact, we had an exhibition where Linda's pictures were blown up, and I bought one of them. And it's a great big one of that thing you're talking about, me and John writing. And you can just see that we're into each other, and we're like smiling, and we're writing down something. So we're engaged in doing something artistic, something interesting. And I say, that every time I felt a bit down, I would look at that picture and go, no, that's the reality. And so I'm loving the fact that Peter Jackson discovered more of that reality.
I'm excited about it. And you guys famously, started writing, I guess, more and more independently as the records progressed. But was there still a kind of input or influence happening anyway, would you say?
I think so. The reason we originally wrote separately was because we were living separately. In the early days, we'd been on tour all the time, so we were kind of living together. Once the touring eased off, and we might have one tour a year or something, there would be plenty of time to be at home. And so you'd pick up a guitar or something, and let's say I wrote Yesterday or something like that. John would write Strawberry Fields. So you were writing separately, then you bring it together for the record. You would then get some collaboration to finish up the song and to bring it in to the studio, and then you collaborate in the studio. But the interesting thing is that ever since the Beatles broke up, and we didn't write together or even record together, I think each one of us referenced the others When we're writing stuff, I often do it, you know. I'm writing something and I go, oh God, this is bloody awful, you know. And I think, what would John say? And he'd go, yeah, you're right. It's bloody awful. You've got to change it. And so I'll change it, you know. And I know from reports that he did similar things to that. You know, if I'd have a record out, he'd go, oh, bloody hell, you know, got to go in the studio, got to try and do better than Paul.
Yeah, I mean, I always felt like even on Imagine, he has that song that's just how ?
How can I go forward when I don't know which way I'm facing?
There's this one chord in it that's sort of, I guess, I don't know what key, but it's when you play like a C major over D on the bass. And it's a kind of like a jazzier sound. And I always felt like that was something that he would have been more influenced by your ears for. Like, it sounds to me that he was paying attention to you, you know, throughout his career, to me. But I don't know. I mean, I can't ask him, but it seems that way if I just listen, you know, to the chords and melodies. He seemed aware of what you were doing. I mean, you even seemed still to be a bit in sync. I listened to your first solo album, McCartney, and his Plastic Ono Band. In a way, what they are connected to me. Maybe I'm stretching, but they're connected because they're both so raw and stripped down in a way. And I feel like they don't sound like the Beatles in a similar way, in the way that they're more kind of bare. And I really love them both, but it seems like you hadn't completely drifted apart necessarily. Like there was still a kind of, you're on the same page to me.
Yeah, well, you know, if you know someone that long, from your early teenage years to your late 20s, right. That's an awful long time to be collaborating with someone, and you grow to know each other, and even when you're apart, you're still thinking about each other, you're still referencing each other. So I like to think that. I always say to people, one of the great things for me was that after all the Beatles rubbish and all the arguing and the business, you know, business differences really, that even after all of that, I'm so happy that I got it back together with your dad. It really, really would have been a heartache to me if we hadn't have reunited. It was so lovely that we did, and you know, it really gives me sort of strength to know that, you know.
Yeah, well, that you kind of touch base again. I mean, even I've seen interviews with him around the time when he's about to go and see you, and he seems really genuinely happy that he's about to see you. I think he says like, well, actually, I'm about to have a meeting with him. Paul, I'm on my way or something, and he kind of jokes, but he sounds happy that he's going to see you. You know, I can tell that you guys were real friends.
I think so much of what he did, you know, just obviously Imagine and Instant Karma, you know, it's great. And the nice thing was when I listened to the records, I could imagine him in the studio and go, oh, okay, I know what he's done. He's just said to the engineer, give me some Elvis echo.
Right, the slap.
Bog echo.
Yeah.
Bog is the toilet in Liverpool. But, you know, we just called it a bog echo. It's really a tape delay. But I can imagine him saying, I want that, and then getting in the headphones with that and recording a lot of his stuff that way.
I also heard that he was kind of insecure about his voice. Like, I've heard that, you know, when he was doing the solo records, he would kind of turn his vocal down, and then he'd go to the bathroom and come back, and the engineers would have like snuck it back up. It's just funny that he had these sort of insecurities, although he also came across as very confident, didn't he? Yeah,
exactly. Well, the confidence was a shield. You know, that I learned that early on, was that if you have difficulties in your life, you can kind of go two ways. You can just lie down and give up, or you can put a shield up and you can guard yourself from the world in that way. So from the minute I met John, you know, I knew that was what was going on, was that he had this wit that would, you know, guard him from that. And so the thing is, you know, insecurities, I think so many people, I can't think of anyone who doesn't have insecurities. So I can relate to that, and I'm sure John would not think it was great enough. I remember doing the vocal on Eleanor Rigby and saying to George Martin, God, this is terrible. Oh, I'm terrible. I listen to it now, I go, oh, no, it's pretty good. I like it.
It's pretty good, yeah. It's okay.
But, we're all full of insecurities. And then, like you say, if you look at it rationally, you go, wait a minute. There's this guy, John Lennon, who's like a genius, clever, witty, confident and everything. Why would he have insecurities? Because we're all fragile beings. And, I do that with myself. I think, God, if I haven't got enough awards, why, I should just look at these awards and go, yeah, you're okay. But you don't. It doesn't work out like that. As an artist, I think you're always questioning it, thinking, I could do this better, or could I? And then sometimes you'll just hear it and go, oh, no, it's okay. But, I think we were all a bit like that.
How did you guys decide to even be songwriters? Because I thought, generally most groups would not necessarily write their own material. Was it Buddy Holly who really started that?
It was independent of all of that. I'd started just when I got a guitar. My natural instinct was to sort of try and learn songs that I liked, little blues songs, or, skiffle songs. But beyond that, I tried to write little things myself. And it turns out so did John. So what I would do is I was just talking to someone about myself, and they said, what are your hobbies? Go, oh, I don't know, I love drawing, and I like song writing. I try and write songs. And instead of these days where someone might go, oh, you do? Well, that's interesting. People would go, oh, yeah, okay. Do you like football? And no one would pick up on that songwriting thing until I met John. And then I said, well, I've written a couple of songs. He said, so have I. So we had just independently, having our guitars, it had struck us as a good idea to try and do something of our own. And they were pretty basic little songs. But when we got together, we used to go around to my house, and we'd play these songs. And we had that really just before Buddy. And then when Buddy came along, the Everleys came along, we took a lot of their style and put them into our style. But we had actually started to flirt with songwriting independent of one another, without major influences, just the fact that it was a guitar, we loved this new kind of music, and so we were having a go at it.
You wrote Love Me Do before the Beatles?
Yeah, we did that. We did a few before the Beatles, really, yeah. Love Me Do, One After 909. That was very much in my front room in our little house. And saw her standing there. I'd started that, and we worked on that together. So we had those really before the Beatles broke,
It's amazing that those songs are so strong and still hold up today. I mean, did you have any throwaway songs that you don't like, that were sort of bad, or was it kind of like you just struck gold from the beginning?
Yeah, no, there were a few songs that weren't very good.
Well, that's nice to hear, actually, honestly.
There were a few that were,
thank God,
clearly young songwriters who don't quite know how to do it. There was one called Just Fun. How's it go? What do you mean? I've got my guitar here. It's like they say that our love is just fun. The day that our friendship begun. Well, there's no blue moon that I can see. There's never been in history, because our love was just fun. Okay, Just Fun. So,
wow, that sounds almost like a country song.
Well, yeah, there was a lot of country influence in our early stuff, yeah. But so eventually we started to write slightly better songs, and then enjoyed the process of learning together so much that that it really took off and became the huge success that was the Beatles.
For sure. I mean, but there's a lot of bands that were successful and great, but you guys especially seem to always evolve and grow kind of exponentially. I mean, if I look at, the history from, I don't know, from the first album all the way through to Abbey Road and Let It Be, I mean, and then you wound up, going on to write an oratorio and all this stuff. Like, where did you guys get this kind of unique drive to just keep expanding? I mean, when I listen to Because and I Want You, She's So Heavy, it seems like even by the end of the Beatles, my dad was still sort of expanding his ability. Like, where did that come from? Because not everyone of that generation did the same thing.
Okay, number one, we were good. Right there. Number two, we'd grown up together. From little kids, we'd taken the first steps together. We'd kind of learned to walk together. Then we learned to run. And the fact that each of us was influencing the other was very important, and we were learning not just about songs and stuff, about life. We'd come down from Liverpool to London, and so we were seeing the London scene together, even though we weren't living together. We would talk about it all, and the same influences, and we'd maybe go to the same clubs, and we'd do this and do that. And so all those influences were always there. And the fact that we'd come along this journey together meant that, hey, we're just going to continue. And who knows, we might get better. And so we did, and if I did something that was a little bit ahead of the curve, then John would come up with something that was a bit ahead of my curve. And then so I'd go, well, how about this? And, there was a lot of friendly competition.
Do you feel like you guys absorbed each other in a way that the other person influenced you to become who you wound up being as an artist?
Yeah, I do, yeah, really, very much so. And as you say, who knows? I was looking at being a school teacher, and I don't know what John was looking at. Maybe being an artist or something, I don't know. And I think we rescued each other.
Having said that, like, are there any solo records of Dad's that you kind of remember thinking like, oh, he's doing a good job with that? Like, I imagine you would have liked Mind Games, the song or something, but that's just in my head, or Number 9 Dream. Are there any songs or records that you remember being a fan of his when he was going solo?
Yeah, I'm often asked for my favorite tunes kind of thing. And I always include Beautiful Boy.
Just gone, he's on Beautiful Boy.
That's a major 6 chord, I think, which he must have learned from you, because you have a major 6 at the beginning of Fool on the Hill. And I think you did a 6 before he did one. I always think that.
I invented the major 6.
You invented the major 6 chord.
No, I love it. I love what I do. I say, happy birthday, John. You're a lovely, lovely boy. And it's great speaking to you, Sean, who's also a lovely boy.
Thank you.
On this occasion. It's great, man.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. It's been really fun, especially hearing about Dad and hearing about my grandma too. It's nice. Here's wishing a happy birthday to my dad. People may grow old, but great music never does.
Y bueno, amigos del lado Beat, esa ha sido toda la entrevista de Paul McCartney, o bueno, de John Lennon con Paul McCartney, titulado este documental o radio documental John Lennon at 80, John Lennon en los 80 años, de la BBC, que se emitió por Radio 2 el 3 y el 4 de octubre. BBC Radio 2 es la fuente original. Pueden escucharlo porque además hay entrevistas también de Elton John y su hermano Julian, también extensas, o bueno, digamos medianamente extensas. Eso ha sido todo por la presente entrega y ya estaremos escuchándonos. Gracias. Chao.